everybody. Welcome to T.O.'s Roadhouse. So good to have y'all with us. Edwin McCain is in the house.
Here
man,
I am.
Congratulations.
Here
Great to
I
have
am.
you, man.
Thank
About
you.
to have a new resurgence, man. You're rocking it out there, dude.
I don't know what's happening, honestly. I was happily moving dirt around in my excavator, and then the everybody loves the 90s.
Boy, don't
It's coming back around, isn't it?
All across the board, man. There was
Look
some
at
great
us.
music, man.
Look at
All-
us. Yeah.
Yeah, all different genres of music, man. I felt it too, man. The last few years have been really freaking awesome for us. Yeah, I like. There's something about having big toys to play with and pushing dirt around that's very soothing, man. I got a bulldozer back there I like to play around on too. You know,
I had a friend that was like, "What is it with you in this heavy equipment
it's just
situation?"
fun.
And I was like, "Have you ever sat in an excavator and listened to a book on tape and moved dirt all day?" No. Well, then you're living an incomplete life.
And skid steers with them grinders on the front of them are freaking awesome.
So that's how I got into it, was forestry mulching.
Yeah.
And I bought one of those forestry mulchers because I had some land I was clearing. But the thing is, if you own one of those machines, the work shows up.
Oh, man.
Like all of a sudden the work showed up so good, I was like, well, I guess I ought to start a company. And the next thing you know, I was the spokesperson for a company called FAE that manufactures this gear. And I'm going all over the world with them. And, you know, I'm always up for an adventure. So I was like, all right, well, this is the way it looks like life is going right now. Let's see how it goes. And just, it was a lot of fun.
You know, you made the comments that we're kind of running parallel lives. We both were on versions of Atlantic Records. You know, we pretty much were in the same distribution network. I never had any dealings with Jason Flom, though. I've heard a lot of things about him. The only negative that I've ever heard about Jason comes from the Taylor Swift camp. But everything else that I've heard is he's a solid guy, great record man, great label man, that he was really solid.
Dude could pick hits.
Yeah.
And he never told me a lie. He told me the truth 100% of the time, even if it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we're friends to this day because we do a lot of work with the Innocence Project, getting wrongfully convicted people out of prison. And
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit too. Get a little bit more in depth in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's honest people in the music business are a rare thing, and I'm blessed to have a lot of those people around me too. But I sure have had my share of bad ones.
You know,
How about you? Have you ever go down that rough road?
I had a situation where a big publishing deal got reneged on, and it was complicated. And you know, I my feelings were hurt because the people involved were close friends, like people that were at my wedding.
Yeah.
You know, but I started to let it eat my lunch because just all cards on the table. I lost $1 million in one day. It just went away, and it was like, sue us, you know. And I was like, okay, that's what it is. And I started to let it eat my lunch, and it did for about a week. And then I woke up one morning and I said, you know, nothing changed here. Nothing functionally in my life changed. Like my perception changed. My idea about these zeros in an account somewhere changed. But if I let that affect my emotional state or the way that I am, that's a real failure. And so it was a great lesson to learn, especially in my 20s, to just be able to absorb a punch like that and move on. And so then nothing really hit as hard after that. You know, I knew how to move through things after that. And then I also learned that the universe has a way of coming back around in your favor. And so the same company, without saying too much, made a mistake in an edit that required them to have to make good. And it came back around, and I was happy to.
Karma's a real thing.
It's a real thing. And so all I had to do is be patient, and life came back around.
You know, it's for sure that if you pursue negative things, and like I've fought off going after people and pursuing lawsuits at times too, because there's something, if you can survive the punch, sometimes it's not worth the negativity that you have to go down that trail to pursue those things, to try to get vengeance or justice or whatever it is. And it just takes so much out of you and so much out of your life at times. I hate getting involved in all that legal stuff. It's so frustrating to go down that road. Sometimes it's best just to let it go. And that's a hard thing to do, man. Your pride gets in the way too.
Yeah. And I even had people at the time that were kind of shocked, because I wasn't normally like that. I was pretty reactive back then, and that was one of those. That was definitely one of those crucibles where, you know, if it hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. But if I'm being honest, if I had gotten that money at the time, I'm not sure I'd be sitting here, because I wasn't making very good life choices back then either. So that would have just turbocharged some dumbassery that could have turned into fatal, you know.
You a sports fan?
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think about the NIL? Speaking of this very topic.
I think I think they need to be paid. I think the college athletes should be paid, but I think the system is a disaster.
I think it's the Wild West. I think they need to put parameters on it. I don't think you should give a freshman or a sophomore in college $2 million and let them be driving Rolls Royces around campus.
Not in any way, but I will tell you this. Did you see how fast SMU got back in the mix once it was okay to start paying?
That's a throwback to a long time ago.
I was about to say that I don't know if that kind of points to.
Yeah, and it frustrates you on levels like with Reggie Bush, man. Give the man his Heisman back. I mean, so what? You know, if you're going to let all this stuff happen now, and then you're holding people's feet to the fire and putting asterisks by their career from something, it's a little bit much.
And I was lucky too. Early in my career, I had a buddy of mine from college who was super conservative with money, let's say. And he was like a 60-year-old trapped in a 25-year-old's body. And he used to yell at me all the time. He'd go, "You don't understand economics. You got to have more coming in than you do going out. And you got a skateboard coming in and an 18-wheeler going out. You're killing me." And he used to come to my house. This is early in my career. We were still van trailer, you know. And I'd come home from a tour and everything in my apartment would be gone, except for my clothes in a pile on the floor. And I'd call him. I go, "Rich, I got robbed." He goes, "Nah, the liquidator had to come by. I had to sell all your stuff. We had some bills to pay." And he would literally just take all my shit and sell it.
What?
Yeah. But as a result, I'm still excruciatingly cheap to this day. You know. But
that, you know, it's as a young person, when you grow up, if you didn't have a lot, I didn't have a lot growing up, and then all of a sudden you come into money. If you're never taught and you don't have anybody guiding you through it, it's easy to go through a lot of money real fast when you don't have any guidance to teach you how to manage it. And I never had it.
And poor impulse control.
Oh, and just all these things coming at you. You know, it's like, this is going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever.
Not in any way. No, I think one of the best things we ever did when we got signed is we said, okay, the only thing we're going to run on is what we earn on the road. Like anything, any ancillary monies like publishing, record company stuff, you can't depend on those because it comes and it goes. Like, it's up and down. So we have to base on what we know we can earn, and we have to be able to live within those boundaries and keep everybody paid. And I've had some of the guys have been with me for 35 years. Wow. So that's a complicated situation too, because loyalty is expensive. But I value that more than money. Yeah. For me, because I don't really need a lot. Right. So I will say that my willingness, so I drive our bus on a lot of tours because that saves us money.
Yeah.
You know? We don't, we had a bus driver quit because he didn't want to stay at Holiday Inn Express, and I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'll drive. It's fine. And I had one driver that I loved so much. When I lost him, I was like, man, I'm never going to be able to replace this guy. So I might as well do the driving.
How do you drive all night and then gig?
So I don't. What I do is I play the gig, and then and what we did, we forced our a lot of the places we were playing to do 7 p.m. start times, like evening with, and they all sell out because everybody's my age. I got guys coming up to me,
9 o'clock,
like high-fiving me, going 7 p.m. I'm home by 9:30. Yes.
Yeah, go to bed, still get up and go to work in the morning, feel fine.
But so we finish the show, and I'll drive for 2 or 3 hours, and then hit a Walmart parking lot, and then sleep until 7 in the morning, and finish the drive. And
Okay.
it's easy.
So what was the music scene like in Greenville, South Carolina when you were growing up?
Oh, it's non-existent.
Yeah.
So Greenville was like a lot of little southern towns, and is church choir, or remember the little brown boxes? They were probably 4,000 seat little arenas.
Yeah, tons of them.
Yeah, and so we would catch the Gap Band or Luther Vandross or whoever was coming through. Allman Brothers. Marshall Tucker was in Spartanburg.
Yeah.
And Jackal. So the guys in Jackal used to work at this place called Gordon Light and Sound. And when I was 15, I was in this band. Maybe I was 16. I had to be 16. Anyway, I was in this band, and we would rent PA from them and then go rent out the National Guard Armory and have parties for all the high school kids. There was nowhere to go, and you charge $1 at the door, $2 at the door. We were making tons of money. There were a couple thousand people in there. I mean, for us, it was a ton of money. But I had to go run the gauntlet with the Jackal guys because they'd haze me to death. I'd be in there trying to rent PA, and they'd be giving me a hard time. So here's this little kid coming in and renting lights and sound, and loading it in my car, and but yeah, that was basically the scene. I mean, Pevo Bryson was from Greenville.
Was he really?
Yeah, but he never. By the time he had hit it big, not many people knew that. But I was always like, man, Pevo's from Greenville. There's a handful of people, but.
I've got some friends that have a small chain of clubs, and they had some around the Greenville in South Carolina, and they said that they've had to pull out because of the insurance requirements. They were required to get $1 million policies on their clubs, and there's new regulations that the state's put in place where it's financially impossible
because of the liability,
because of the liabilities and everything that are in the state that they've pulled out of South Carolina, which I hate to hear. Yeah. There's a lot of great music fans in South Carolina.
Yeah, and that's a complicated situation. That's been kind of an ongoing thing, especially for all the restaurateurs too. And but Greenville in it as a music town, it just wasn't. We didn't have a scene.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It had to be Atlanta or Athens or Charleston or even Columbia. Charleston had a great music scene. So I was down there. That was where I kind of got my start.
Yeah.
Was busking on the streets during Spoleto. And then I picked up a gig, this little Mexican restaurant on the deck. I was out in front of there busking, and then the manager came out and said, hey, if I pay you $75 and feed you, could you play here 3 nights a week? And I was like, yes, sir. I was like 19, and I dropped out of college the next day. I was like, I'm rich. My dad was so pissed. And so I started out, I probably knew how to play 30 songs or something, half of them were mine because I didn't know, back then, trying to learn the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, there's 1 million chords in that song, man. I ain't learning that song. It's easier to write a 3-chord song of my own, right? Yeah. And so this place I played at had these 2 decks that went this way, and I set up in the corner, and it was where people would wait for their tables. So I could get through about 10 songs, and I'd have a whole new audience, so I could play my set list over and over again. The only problem was there were these planter boxes that ran down the sides, and there were rats in them. And man, these people didn't see it, but I could see the rats, and the rats run underneath the one set table to another table, and nobody. I was like, man, I'm one rat away from this gig being over, and people would get up to go get on their table, and a rat would run out on the table and grab some chips and run back.
Shit.
Oh yeah, no, it was like Wild Kingdom, and I just remember every gig I played, I just sit there and sweat because some woman's gonna have a rat run up her leg, and this gig's gonna be done. But those rats were sneaky, man. They were like ninjas.
Music business is glamorous, isn't it?
Man, I'll tell you what.
Holiday Inn Expresses, rats on stage.
That's the thing, though. I honestly tell the kids that I work with, the younger, I'm like, if you don't love all of this, if you don't love the breakdowns and the generator oil changing and the all the problems and the people if you don't love all of it, don't do this, because it's not. If all you love is the 90 minutes on stage, then just sing in your bedroom.
Somebody asked me the other day, everybody wants that advice, man. Give me some advice about what to do. Don't ever do it for the money or the fame. If you don't do it for the pure passion of the craft, then you don't need to be doing this, because it's too freaking hard and it takes too much of you.
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, it's not for everybody.
No, it's not. This is not it comes with a lot of perks and stuff, but it's a hard life. It's hard on you. It's hard on your family. It's hard on the people that you love. You miss birthdays. You miss all kinds of things in life. And when you get off that treadmill, like you were talking about before, not wanting to get back into it, man, when you've been away from it for a little bit, and I never did that until COVID shut me down for a year, I was like, I'm not getting back on this treadmill. And then it started. And then the next thing you know, you're doing more shows than you were before you quit.
So that's exactly what happened with me. I mean, COVID, I turned into the worst high school teacher in the state of South Carolina. So I was homeschooling my kids, and at first I was like, man, I can do this. This is going to be great. And I had this vision of me sitting there leaning over my son and him looking back at me and going, yeah, Dad, I get it now.
How'd that work out?
And then I ran back into algebra, and I was like, "Oh crap! I thought I'd lost you forever, algebra." And then it turned into, all right, listen, kids, because my wife was working at the elementary school, so she was gone all day, and I'm there with the kids, and I was like, all right, look, don't tell your mother. There's an app on your phone. Just point it at the math problem, and it'll solve it for you. Just
Now that's teaching 101 right there.
Economics right there. Problem solving.
And it was funny too. By halfway through the year, my middle son is just like me. He refuses to do unnecessary shit.
Yeah.
Like, he knew for a fact that half of his classmates had never logged in and weren't even going to log in. And why has he got to do all this work, right? This busy work that they were just making up, right? Yeah. And so he was just like, nope. And so I got this email from his English teacher that was like, we might have to hold Ben back a grade next year. And I was like, you're welcome to do that. In fact, I encourage it. I wrote her back in this email, and she was like, oh, no, well, we all know he's capable. I was like, don't play chicken with me, lady. Like, I know what's up. Like, everybody's going to the next grade. We all know what's happening here. Yeah. This is a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine. And they all turned out fine. I'll tell you, they got lucky, too, because it was I want to say it was their 8th grade year that they skipped. Like, that's fine. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can skip 8.
I'll tell you, we homeschooled ours too. And when I had one that just graduated from WKU, she did 5 years, got her degree in nutrition dietetics and got an MBA. My kids didn't have good study habits because they homeschooled, because they didn't have to test on a regular basis. It wasn't the same, and they struggled in school.
Right.
Did your kids experience that too?
So I have one child, my daughter, who's like a 4.0 student, and she gets it.
Yeah.
School's not a problem for her. And then my other 2 sons like hated school as much as I hated it. Yeah. And I get it. So, and I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. I was dyslexic. I couldn't read in elementary school. I had trouble reading, so I hated school. And I could see that in my sons. And my middle son went to a year of college to play lacrosse, and then was brave enough to come to me and say, Dad, I hate this.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, buddy, you don't have to do this. Let's move on to something else. And he's happily working at a friend of mine's detail shop and has plans on taking it over when he retires. And you know what I mean? It's just you know how hard it is to be a parent. You just want them to find their thing.
I want them to find something that they're passionate about, because it's not just about getting a job and doing what the world thinks you're supposed to do or getting that piece of paper. It's about finding something that you really love doing. It's that simple. As hard as it is to find, but you sound a lot like me. I knew what I wanted to do since I was a little bitty. I've always known. There was never any doubt. I was never like chasing anything. It's just like, how do I get there? And I had to realize as I got older that everybody doesn't have that thing.
Not even close.
And I feel sad for them.
And they look, and I've had this conversation with my middle son about this. I'm like, say out loud that crazy thing that you think in the back of your mind. That thing you just like, if you could just have one wish, like, what would you do? And I finally got him to say it. And I was like, there it is. So do that.
Yeah.
Start figuring out how you're going to get that done. And it's not up to me to help you unless you ask me for help. But whatever that little sneaky thing is that you always wished you could do, you can do that. You just have to say it. And you have to keep saying it until other people start repeating what you said. Even if they're going, can you believe what this crazy idiot said? They're still saying it.
Yeah.
Like, if you say what you're going to do with enough conviction, enough times, it may not end up exactly how you pictured it, but it'll be pretty damn close.
I agree.
And that's what it seems deceptively simple, but it's 100% that. And
speaking it into existence.
You just never ever stop saying it. Like and it's just an elaborate fake it till you make it, right? Because I remember in my 20s, like, I was broke as a joke living in my van. But if anybody asked me how things were going, I would fall all over myself telling them how great it is. I was playing 10 shows a week. Now they were some sketchy places, but man, I was doing it. I was doing my thing. Sometimes there was 10 people in the audience, but I was playing music, and in my mind, I was on my way. And I think it's that kind of like blind optimism that you have to apply, and that you're capable of applying in your 20s.
And that's the time to do it. You have to do it before you have responsibilities and a mortgage and all those other things, man. When you've got the freedom, and I was telling my daughter this not long ago, now's the time for you to be selfish. Being selfish is what you do when you're young, before you have kids and responsibilities and all those things. Chase what it is you want to find in life, because when you get older, you're not going to have the freedom to do those things anymore.
And when you're 18, from 18 to 30, if you genuinely go to someone you admire and ask them humbly for help, they'll help you.
Yeah.
People fall all over themselves to help it. When I was 18, I bought a bus. I bought a 1960 GMC 4104 out of a field. This gospel group in the middle of South Carolina had it, and they'd been riding it around to church gigs. And this was an old Greyhound bus that they had converted. It had 2 million miles on it.
Holy.
And I didn't know how to drive a bus. I'd never driven anything bigger than a sedan. But I walked into this bus company in North Charleston. This guy, Charlie, owned the place. And I introduced myself, and I said, listen, I want to buy a bus, and I don't know how to drive a bus, and I don't understand anything about buses. Will you please teach me? And this man put me in his car and drove me out to the middle of South Carolina to help me buy this bus, and then taught me how to drive it, and let me keep it at his bus company, because I was,
wow.
But that's what people will do for an 18-year-old that asks. 18-year-olds don't understand how much goodwill they have from adults and people, but that runs out. You start pushing back, you go through, 30, 35, man, everybody's like, well, what have you been doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It does change. There's some things you can get away with, when you're younger, that as you get older, that's pretty frowned upon. I mean, that's just the process of life. It's called maturation. You got to grow up. But a lot of that comes with the right attitude, and I think a lot of young people nowadays don't have good attitudes. They think everything's supposed to be given to them. Supposed to come out of college making $200,000 a year. There's a graciousness that comes with getting help from people. It's got to be a reciprocal thing. You got to be a gracious human being
100%.
too. Yeah.
And willing to do whatever the job requires.
Absolutely.
And I feel good. My sons have so I used to make them help me if somebody got in a pinch and we had to go put a silt fence in or do some kind of manual labor. They would all go out there. My oldest son, he'll work all day. He's a mule. He doesn't even blink. Tell him what my middle son doesn't really like manual labor that much, and I was forcing him to help me with this silt fence, digging this trench, and about 20 feet into it, he sat down on it and he started to cry real tears, and he was laughing at himself, crying the real tears. I was like, boy, if you hate this kind of work, you better get your grades up because this is what's available. But now he's a hard worker. He's shrug it off.
Any of them musical?
No, you know what? My oldest son has got a great voice, and he sings in the shower all the time. I hear him singing, but he would never in a million years get up in front of people and sing.
How did they deal with your celebrity growing up?
They never knew it.
Really?
No, my middle son, when he was in elementary school, he told his they were doing What's Your Father Do? And he told his class that I drive a forklift at a warehouse because he saw me at our warehouse with our forklift and he assumed that was my job because he had seen the music thing, but that's not a job. That's just like stuff he does for fun. So it didn't really click with them, but mostly in Greenville, I know everybody from high school and they're not impressed. Nobody cares. Everybody's done. So they don't, as time has gone on, they're more aware of it now. I think the first time it really hit them was a few years back when we got invited to do the Opry. And I'm embarrassed to say this. So I've been turning down the Opry. I know how ridiculous this sounds.
No, it doesn't sound
So
ridiculous.
I had turned it down because I was like, well, that's for up and coming country artists, and I don't want to take up a slot. And I've already had my ride on the roller coaster. That feels kind of like greedy to me. That's something that the new artists should have. That should be, that was what I thought that was. I didn't understand. I didn't get it. I didn't really get it. And so, and I'd always been a fan of Hal Ketchum and his sort of stance on, it's not about awards or, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to, I'm treading really lightly on this spot. But so the Opry thing came up again and I was like, yeah, okay, we should do that. Well, that'll be fun, and they can go and see. I'll take them there, and they all came with me, and my daughter was in the, you're in the dressing room, and there's Taylor Swift on the wall, and everybody, and my daughter was like, Taylor Swift's been in this room, and I was like, yeah, well, you might be onto something. And I was like, baby, I was onto something before she was born. And I don't know. So I think they kind of get it. But in the same breath, I've always sort of considered myself a journeyman songwriter. I was never good at it, at the famous stuff. The record company had to dress me. They picked me up one day from the airport and said, listen, your song's number 4. You need to, we got to do something. And I was like, what are we doing? And they said, we're going to take you to Barney's. And I was like, what kind of food do they have? and And they're like, no, you idiot. We got to dress you. You dress like a farmer. And I was like, okay. And so we went over there and they're putting suits on me and the whole thing. And I remember at one point I'm wearing this suit and I look at the guy, the assistant is putting all these clothes on. I said, how much does this suit cost? And he goes, $5,000. I said, God dang, $5,000 has an engine and a transmission. There's no way I'm paying $5,000 for a suit. Like, what? And they were, so they struggled with the fact that I didn't understand that if you want to have a career that gets into that stratosphere, you got to care about what you're wearing.
Is that why Billy Ray Cyrus looks the way he does?
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I guess.
I'm just curious.
I don't have a clue,
it's like
man.
He climbed out of the Appalachian woods or something.
I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just wasn't any good at it. I just wasn't good at that part. I love playing for people. I love connecting with audiences. I love writing songs about this life and the things that happened to me and the people I love and the stories that I've heard. And I just don't know anything about being famous. But Darius Rucker is great at it. You know what I mean? Like, he loves it. Like, I mean, like, he's one of my friends that knows how to do it. He really knows how to be famous, and he loves being famous. And I suck at it.
Yeah, but it's different for everybody. I mean, just because you don't, you feel like you struggle with all that, but it's not the same for everybody. I mean, I don't care about all that stuff either. But it's, some people need it to be fed their ego all the time, but other people don't. A lot of people do it just for the craft, and there's a lot of people in the country that do it purely for the craft that struggle with celebrity too. It's not an easy thing, man. No, it takes a toll on everybody around you.
Yeah, and I think at some point you reach a crossroads and you make a decision.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to be?
How long did you shut down for before? I know you just making a new record right now, or just finished one?
No, I finished the record. At least.
But how long had it been?
15 years.
That's a long time.
So I was, and here was my theory behind that too. I was home being dad, and I was out there. I'm back to being independent, and I go and I tour my little listening rooms and play to my people, and I know the songs they want to hear, and I know how I am about music. Like, we're going to see AC/DC, me and my boys, a couple weeks, and I know what songs I want to hear, and it ain't new stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm a hypocrite, and so for years people would go, when are you putting out a new album? And it's a nice thing to say. Yeah. You know what I mean? They would say that because it's a nice thing to say, but you're not going to buy it, right? They'd go, when are you putting out a new record? I'd go, I'm not. I put out 10 or 11. There's bound to be something on one of them you like, and that was my joke for years. But part of the other mindset was, I was just thinking you can move out of the way, right? There's only so much bandwidth, and there's all these younger kids coming up, and maybe it's time for them to say the things they're going to say and do, have their space. And maybe that's an incorrect way of looking at it, but I always kind of felt like it was sort of a stewardship component where I move out of the way and I teach songwriting seminars, and I still write, and I'm still musical, and I still go play my shows. And I was writing and playing, but what would happen is somebody I love would have something happen in their life, and I would write them a song about it, send it to them, and that was the end of it. And it didn't always have to be a commercial release for everybody. Music is a way of enriching your life with the people that you love. And so that was what I was doing. So to me, I was busy in music, and I was busy doing what I love. And I wrote a song with Lee Brice for his record, and then he started pestering me about doing a record, and from like 2012 all the way up into COVID, in every year or so he'd go, Bubba, you ready to do this? And I don't think anybody cares about hearing anything from me. And And then finally, I said okay, and came down here and had the best time with Lee and Jared Neiman and, you know, Detox and Philip Lamons, and making records now is light years easier than it used to be.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
oh man. I'm sure. What year did you record your first record?
1994.
So it probably moved from 24 analog. That was when we were on Yamaha 48 digitals. Everybody was using digital machines, but it was still before Pro Tools.
So the first record I did, we were in LA. Well, the first recordings I did was all 24 track 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And you know, you never experience fear until you saw somebody do a window edit with an X-Acto knife, you know, cutting out tape.
Still amazing to me. Have you ever done those edits? I stole him from the studio.
I've not done it, but I've had my mentor tell me about like editing just this little, like just one little piece of something. But if you fuck that up,
a window
man,
edit, just a tiny little cut of it, and you just sit there and go, ooh.
Hey, I was always blown away watching them comp vocals where they sit over there in front of the machine with the wires. It's like, what in the world are you doing?
Yep.
I never did understand
My
that.
intro was Pro Tools. So the only time I used tape was to just, what was it? We had like a
get
studio day where
saturation.
we were like, hey, let's record something to tape just to see if we can do this, you know? So we just recorded some piano, and the tone of it was so much better.
Oh my
Well,
gosh,
But just
yeah.
the pain in the ass it is to sync everything up, and then, you know, the degradation of the tape if you don't store it correctly, and just there's a lot to it.
So right at the beginning of Pro Tools, everybody kept those 16-track Studer 2-inch tapes because the saturation was so amazing, and you'd record drums and bass down to the 16-track and then dump it into Pro Tools. And it was dope.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that changed is the intangible spirit of the performance. When you knew that tape was rolling and the red light kicked on and whatever you're playing is going down on that tape, and it's staying there. And that's going to be whatever the world knows of your playing is going down on that tape, and it would raise the level of anxiety but it would make you the amount of focus and attention was higher. Because now, like, I can just slop my way through a couple of takes of acoustic guitar, and we're gonna stick them together. You know, we'll make a pass out of it.
You can do a full band punch. If you miss something, say you screw up right after the solo or the turnaround or whatever, you can do a full freaking band punch. As long as everything is set right the way that it is. You can't leave and come back and reset up and do it, but you can do it right then.
I've got a nightmare moment. It was Derek Baseman was telling me this. He was doing a Reba record, and I think he was mixing it, but somebody accidentally punched in like a whole band punch on the actual tape there and erased the second half of the song. So he had to go back in there and recall the mix, or he had to bring the entire band back in to do a band punch and then try to recall the mix and get the tones exactly the same so that you couldn't tell that one half of the song had been completely punched in and replaced.
It's crazy.
Insane.
My biggest selling record we did in the basement of Matt Rawlings' house on ADATs.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And we had situations where the ADATs would crash and you just have the ADAT guy coming back out to pull your VCR tape out and somehow figure out what was going on.
Stacks of ADAT racks, man.
But that was my first real foray into Nashville and the caliber of musician that populates the city.
Oh my gosh, how different is the recording? And I know technology's changed, but from your experience in LA, because I've never recorded in LA, so I don't really understand the music scene, how far everything is, the cartage deliveries, the studio, everything in Nashville's like in a little box, man. You can have anything you want within 5 minutes. If you're in the studio and you need a specific background singer, if you need a piece of gear, a type of guitar, a freaking amp, a microphone, everything's like a 5-minute phone call away.
It's like that in LA, and so like here, you got, you know, Aaron or Eddie Bears or you know, Matt Rawlings, or I mean, I'm back in time, but there's, you know, Jed Hughes or Tom Bukovac available to show up at a session. But out in LA, you've got Lee Sklar and you got Russ
Steve
Kunkel
Lukather.
and Lukather and Abe Laboriel Jr. and Vinny Colaiuta, and so I think the musicianship is equal.
Do they do the number system out there now?
Yes,
Ever pretty much that's recording in New York or wherever doing number system now.
And my guitar player Larry Cheney taught me. He's taught me the number system 10 times, and I know it. I know it for the day, and then I wake up the next morning and it's gone.
I know enough to function, but I don't know it. I can't write a chart.
And whenever we do these symphony gigs, all our music's charted for symphony, but the arrangements are different, and I don't read music, so I have to go back and memorize all these things, and it's terrifying. Like the whole first hour playing with a symphony, it's like riding on the front of a runaway freight train. I'm just trying to remember all these weird things that we cleverly did
That we thought were cool. That are so different than the way you normally play
and
it.
so we were doing this thing at the Atlanta Symphony, and I made it through all the complicated part. Now all I got to do is play "I'll Be" just like the record. And I was like, yes. And so I'm coasting through the song. About halfway through, I was like, oh crap, where am I? And I literally missed the bridge. I was like, that's what I do. and the poor guys in my band are just stuck. Like, arrangements or suggestions. Like, I'm going to try to do it like we said we were going to do it. But there's a good chance that there's going to be 2 bars either added or left out somewhere. And the set list, I know what it says. I know. But are we going to get 4 songs into it before I change it? Or are we going to get 8 songs into it before I change it?
So needless to say, you ain't running track.
No. Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Are you running?
Nope. Not a one.
I can't do it.
I can't do
Well,
it.
here's why. It's not that I wouldn't. It's just I know how many things break in my life now. Like, I'm going to add another point of failure. Like, seriously. Like, listen.
I change my mind too much. If I want to change gears in the middle of a show, if I build tracks in, I've tried it. I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't.
I'm not comfortable with it.
No, and that's the thing. So, and my thing is like, well, you'd have to have 4 computers to back up the one computer, because in my world, if it can break, it's not only going to break, but it's going to catch on fire, burn through the floor, set off a chain reaction that causes 15 other things to go wrong. And that's just the way my life is. I mean, it's always been like that. I carry 4 spare trailer tires in my trailer. I plan on losing all 4 of my brand new tires. When I leave on tour, I can change out every damn tire, because we will.
Yeah. Because the trailer's overloaded.
It will happen.
Because the trailer's overloaded.
I was driving here to Nashville. I'm going to say this story. I'm going to tell this story because I don't care. And this jackass DOT guy pulled me over because my trailer lights flickered. They ain't flickered. But he started running me around, started going through all, and first thing I point out is like, look, I got brand new steer tires, brand new Michelin steer tires. That's all you need to know about how much I care about maintenance. Everything's 5x5. I value my life. I'm up front. I'm riding on the bumper. I'm not, come on. So he's going in, he's being nitpicky, and he starts bragging about pulling Dolly Parton over and catching her driver on an overdrive. And I said, hang on a second. You're not telling people that story, are you? He goes, what do you mean? I was like, you're not like telling your friends and family that you pulled Dolly Parton over and gave her driver a ticket, right? Like, he's like, yeah. I was like, well, they think you're an asshole. So that cost me about $1,000 in tickets. And he grounded me for the day. And I had to get somebody from Slarv's to come out and drive my bus from Lebanon to the 3rd and Lindsley. And I didn't care. It was worth it. So wherever you are, sir, kiss my ass. Still pissed at you. I'm still mad at you. And I was so mad, I looked him up on the internet, and there were a bunch of truckers that don't like him either. I was like, yeah, that's right.
That's the guy.
Bless his heart.
Damn it. Why are you going to brag about pulling over Dolly Parton? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
So I know you like to work on boats too, right?
I did a TV show for a minute with that, you know.
Hang on just a second. Kick back over.
That's the sound of freedom, man.
Freedom.
I get that our bus is old, but we have all brand new air conditioners. You can make that bus 50 degrees. Cold keeps the stinky down. You know, that's the thing.
And the germs too, they say.
Oh,
Is that why y'all keep that one over there like a freaking meat
man,
locker?
I love it. Over there. So when I come over here, that's why I'm sweating during these things all the time because I'm so used to being in the vortex.
Lord
of
have
the
mercy.
meat locker.
My bus broke down last weekend, and the last 2 weekends, and I've had to ride on the white bus over there, the older one that used to be my star coach, and it's 66 degrees in that front lounge. I mean,
it should be.
You can't catch nothing in there. I mean, nothing can live in there. Golly, it's freaking cold.
I had a hard time sleeping in a bed for a little while when I first kind of came off the road after being out there for 15 years and just out there all the time.
Yeah.
It was weird.
You need that generator humming in
yeah.
the bus, man. You get used to that. There's something cool about the bus, man. Nobody that's ever lived on one. When you spend as much time as we do on one, it's a safe place. It's your freaking sanctuary, man. It's where you and your brothers hang out. It's just got its own thing to it, man. It's like you're separated from the entire world when you live in this tube.
When we first started out, we had this bus driver that hated us. And oh God, he hated us. I mean, we were a baby band and we were riding, you know, he was working for Thrasher Brothers, and I probably shouldn't say too much, but you know, he didn't want to drive 20 somethings to bar. He had been on big tours, you know. He had way more experience than we did. And so we'd finish our gigs and we'd be in the bar, you know, chit-chatting, talking to girls or whatever, and he'd come in there and go, "Get your asses on that bus." And he'd cuss us out, and we'd go, "Okay," because we didn't know any better. We were scared of him, so we'd go get on the bus. And he quit pretty soon. He was with us for about a month or whatever. So fast forward 30 years. We had a breakdown. We needed a rescue bus. It was him. And when he opened that door and saw it was me, the look on his face, like, never in a million years would he thought that I was going to have a 30-something year career. And the whole like week that he drove us, I caught him up front kind of just shaking his head like he was eating his lunch that I had managed to carve out some kind of a career. He would have bet his life against it. That was funny.
So are you out with Train right now? I saw a whole bunch of dates on the books with Train.
Yeah, we start in August. We go through September, and we were out with Hootie and Collective Soul last summer, and talking about doing a big tour with Tonic. So
cool.
Everybody loves the 90s. You know, we're going to put our 90s. And so Emerson.
What do you think made the 90s so great, brother? I mean, and it wasn't just country. Country was huge in the 90s, but you just had a grunge scene. You had an alternative rock scene. There was just so much great music in the 90s.
I think there was a lot of authenticity. I think there was a high degree of artistry. And I think there was still enough of those guys in the music industry that there was an elite group of record company presidents that didn't have to know why something was great. You know, I call them the cigar chompers. They were the guys that would give Jaco Pastorius $100,000 to make a bass record for CBS. I don't know. Everybody seems to love this guy. Just let him do his thing, right? And so Jason was kind of part of that group of people. He didn't have to know why it was great. He just, as long as it had an energy and it was moving in a direction, he was on board. And so he could, when I signed with him, he had signed Jill Sobule, who was this real quirky folk singer, me, Sugar Ray, and this guy named Bob Ritchie that everybody called Kid Rock. And I was doing free shows to get Bob's songs added to radio because we were all on the same label. Yeah. I mean, I was there. I witnessed the birth of Kid Rock, right? We were at an SIR rehearsal studio in Manhattan picture this. He's got Kid Rock spelled out in plywood. Like, imagine your middle school talent show and you cut it out with a jigsaw, spray painted it silver and with silver sparkles and Christmas lights. He's got this stage set that he obviously made himself, right? And it's, Kid Rock, and all the department heads are in the room. And here he comes, and it's sparklers and the Joe C on a pony, and they're doing the whole Kid Rock thing, like full blown. And I turned to Jason, I was like, you're gonna make $1 billion. And about halfway into the gig, I go, this band doesn't have a bass player? And he goes, no, they do have a bass player, but he quit 5 minutes before the gig because he found out that the pony was making more money than him.
That's awesome. Wow.
And so we were in this little, and if you look up Jason's story, he almost got fired. He was an intern at Atlantic and fell in love with this band called Twisted Sister that was out on Long Island. He just was all over anybody that would listen about Twisted Sister. So bad that Doug Morris, the head of Atlantic, pulled Jason into his office and said, if you say the name Twisted Sister in this building again, I'm going to have you escorted out. So what's Jason do? He gets on the phone with the UK version of Atlantic, gets Twisted Sister signed to them, and has a hit with them against Doug Morris's wishes. But now they love him. Like, he's a wonderkind. But so they put him in a different building and gave him his own imprint because Doug was so pissed. And so I'm in the perfect situation. I'm with this sort of renegade A&R.
So is that
guy.
how Lava started?
Yeah, that's how Lava started.
Just to get him out of the building.
Just get him out of the building. Like, just give him his own imprint, whatever. And then the first 4 acts he signs are going platinum. And Bob and Sugar Ray multi-platinum. And then now all of a sudden they're like, wait, we need him back. We need you back. and so we were kind of the little island of misfit toys, and we were all for one and one for all. And I remember at one point, me and Sugar Ray and Kid Rock played a gig together, like an industry thing at the Troubadour, and it went way off the rails after the show. And a company-wide email went out on Monday. Under no circumstances are these 3 bands to be on the same bill ever again. And I'm still proud of that. I mean, I've been sober a long time, but God dang it, that was fun.
Sometimes it's good to just break it off in them just a little bit. They must have left the tab open. They did that to me one time in New York.
It was not. I just recently played in the Troubadour, and as soon as I walked in there, I went,
Little flashbacks. Man,
yeah, those are
quite the
times.
journey, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, That's the other thing. My wife has to constantly remind me, like, okay, we're going to go to these people's house for dinner. Tour bus funny is not dinner party funny. Yeah,
it's different.
It's not dinner party.
The way you talk to each other on the road,
Yes.
it's not acceptable.
No, it's the only reason I actually have stationery with my name on it. It's like, dear Mrs. So-and-so, I apologize for telling the story about the stripper in Dallas. That was inappropriate at the junior league event. But how the raconteurs that you meet, like the people that you get to meet in this business, like, I don't want to know other people. Like, the people in this business are spectacular.
Yeah.
From the truck drivers to the riggers to everybody. I mean, everybody. It's this industry is populated by some really funny people
and eclectic personalities, man. And I'm a collector of people, man. I love strange and unique souls, man. And there's a lot of them in the music business, but that just makes the colorful. That makes the world go around. Those colorful people are special.
100%. And the other part of this is that you have friends all over the planet. You make friends. Like the currency in this life, especially in the music, are the friendships that you make and the relationships that you have. And I can go anywhere in the country and call people that are in the foxhole with me, not just friends, people that can count on me, and vice versa. And that's rare. I don't, I'm assuming you know Johnny Lee.
Oh, very well.
So Johnny and I got to be friends, and I'm adopted. And I was hanging out. I was looking at him one day, and I was like, where were you on tour in 1969? And he looked over at me and goes, son. And I go, did he? And so from then on, I've been calling him Diddy.
I love Johnny, man.
Dude.
You know about his tattoo, right?
Yeah.
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 The camel on his toe.
Dude. Have you ever been on a writer's round with him?
I have not, but golly.
Let me tell you, as long as you're okay with just being another audience member, then feel free, because any writer's round you get on with him becomes the Johnny Lee show, and it doesn't matter what you do, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And he's the funniest. Everybody loves him more than you. Period. End of sentence. I mean, I've seen him on a writer's round with six other people, and including John Daly and all these other famous people, and Johnny Lee steals the show lock, stock, and barrel.
I hope he's doing okay. You know, his health has deteriorated. He's had a couple brain surgeries, and we did. He was on. We do a country music cruise every other year that we've done for several years, and he's been on all those. And he was having to scooter it up the last couple of times he was on because he can hardly walk anymore. So he's kind of deteriorating.
Yeah, I just nothing but love.
Much love, man,
for that man. So much love for him, and he was really important to me. When I was struggling a little bit, because I used to call him when I was trying to get my life together before I got sober. Yeah. And he always answered. It didn't matter what time it is. I mean, I don't even know how to quantify the love I have for that man.
Yeah, he's been through a lot too. Lost his son and everything, man. I love all those old cats too, and I'm friends with a lot of them that I've made relationships over the years. But from Mel Tillis on down, and Mo Bandy and Joe Stampley and Johnny and all those, man, there's just such character, man. They live such a life, man, and I love the stories, and I love hearing all the things from back in the 70s and 80s, man. It was just an awesome time. Urban Cowboy, man, that made Johnny a freaking superstar.
I mean,
it was huge.
Tell you. I did a show where I was sort of hosting, and one of the shows was Marty Stewart and Billy Joe Shaver.
Yeah.
And Marty Stewart was on set all day, and we sat in this tiny little dressing room, and he sat there and told me stories from his life. And I was like, well, forget this show. We should have just had a camera sitting right here, because Marty Stewart is one of the most generous, kind-hearted, deep into the pool, like I don't know what else to say. And then knowledgeable, all I mean, unbelievily talented, all the things, and
amazing hair, the hair.
But he knows how to be famous.
Yes. He carries it well.
He carries it.
He embraces it. He lives the culture, and he's knowledgeable of the history and the culture that he comes in and from.
And it doesn't come off as anything other than authentic.
No,
that's the trick, right? He's
comfortable.
Been in
it. He's been in it since he was 13, 14 years old.
Younger than that.
I mean, playing with national touring acts when he was a freaking baby.
His mama just stuck him on the bus with the Monroe brothers when he was like 10 years old. Like, first of all, everybody goes to jail if you did that now, right? Child Protective Services chasing the bus. Anyway, Can you imagine? First of all, he was that talented that the Monroe brothers were like, yep, get on the bus. And then that education. And there's no way to quantify how amazing his story is. And then Billy Joe Shaver gets on stage, and, he's missing part of his finger. He's had an incredible run just from the songwriting and the storyline and all the hijinks, and the fact that his entire friend group, including Willie and Chris Christopherson and everybody, they used to, whenever somebody would bring them drugs, they didn't know what it did, they'd make Billy Joe take it and see what happened. And he was happy to be the crash test dummy. He was telling the whole story. I'm dying, right? But he's not, and he would say this, he's not necessarily a compelling singer or a compelling songwriter, but man, the songs, right? And his show is basically him walking you through his life in song, and all these songs are photographs in an album. And by the end of the show, he's walked you through the hardest times of his life, losing his son, and it ends a cappella with him singing, if first you don't succeed, try again, and the whole crowd's up with tears streaming down their face, clapping along. And I turned to a friend, and I was like, this is as good as anything can ever be musically. This is what everybody's trying to achieve in some way or another, is what he just did up there. And it strips away this myth of perfection, and it strips away this myth of intentionality. What it speaks to is the power of connection and our ability to empathize and understand each other. And that's all this is, right? And he did it right there. Marty did it right there. And I spend my whole life just trying to get to, 1/100th of what they do effortlessly. That's the.
So when you made this new record, I'm gonna shift gears here a little bit. Who all played on it? If you came and recorded here in Nashville, give me that list of guys.
God, there's a bunch of people. Aaron, Jimmy Lee Slose, Lee, Larry Cheney, my sax player Craig, Jed Hughes. There are probably some people I don't even know about because I would leave, and Lee and Jared Neiman would work on it. Like, there was some horn parts put on there. I'm not even sure who that was.
Where'd y'all cut at?
Over at Lee's farm out at
okay. He has
a little studio out there he built called the Pump House.
Cool.
And it's great. I mean, it's you can record it. Back in 2010, we were recording stuff into a laptop that ended up on his record in his bus.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, everything's changed. You can get really great sounds and recording.
Everything's in the box now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing.
People have mixed Grammy Award-winning records on a laptop and an airplane and headphones. I mean, it's crazy.
But again, that speaks to, is it compelling? Is it moving people? And that's the only requirement in my mind, right? It was so much easier to make this record than the last time I made a record. And, our ability to edit and to dress things up a certain way and see what it sounds like. And then if that didn't work, we'll try something else, and that wasn't, we'd run out of money. I just remember, it'd be like, well, your record was finished when you ran out of money. You couldn't pay any more to the studio.
Well, the great thing about all this Pro Tools and Logic and all that stuff is as you go through the mix mode, man, anything you play, if you do a plug-in on this one guitar part in this one section, when you recall it, it all comes back up. It's not like you have to dial all that stuff back in when you bring the mix back up. Everything you build in from every fader slide and everything is all on recall, so it makes it so much easier to get all that stuff back.
The only downside is that you can tinker endlessly.
Yeah.
Like my manager.
You have infinite track usage. I mean, you can put things on there till you just run out of days, man.
we were already on tour with Hootie, and my manager got in my face in backstage here in Nashville was like, I'm going to kill you if you don't turn this record
Well,
in.
I was talking with somebody the other day on another podcast, and he said you never actually finish a record. You just run out of time.
You just stop.
You just have to say, okay, I got to turn it in. You're gonna tinker with it right till the deadline comes upon you.
We'd still be tinkering.
Yeah.
I mean, if
And going back, do you go back and listen to stuff that you did before? And it never holds up. I always wish I could go back and redo it.
and once I'm finished with a record, I never listen to them.
Do you not?
No, and I will, like 10 years from now. Like I've gone back and listened to, but then I want to fix it. I want to change.
Well, I
everything.
will go back and listen to stuff if we're working up old songs or whatever to kind of refresh ourselves. I mean, I've kind of been in that mode right now too. But I mean, it changes. Every album's got its own feel and personality. Even if you use the same players and the same engineers, they all have a different feel to them, don't they?
Who were you using in the 90s? Was that Eddie Bears and Nathan?
Eddie Bears. Yep. Eddie Bears played on a bunch of stuff. Nathan played on one record. But Milton Sledge was John Anderson's original drummer, and Milton played on my first album, and he got Carpet Tunnel. But man, Brent Rowan, Brent Mason on guitars over the years, Glenn Worf on bass guitar. I mean, I never got to play with who's the piano player? You just
Matt Rollins.
Matt, I never played with Matt. Matt had somewhat retired from the country world by the time I got in there, but I used Mike Rojas has played on a bunch of stuff. Steve Nathan's played on a bunch of stuff, piano and organ wise. Tony Harrell's played on a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's just there's so many good players.
Being around like those guys, the one take guys, is like it's something out of a movie.
It really is, and people don't realize, man, when you go in the studio, a lot of times we'll show up with a work tape, and the session leader will play the acoustic thing down. They'll chart that thing out. They'll go in there. You kind of talk a couple of production notes, talk to a couple of guys. They'll run through it 2 or 3 times, and you're done. I mean, it's unbelievable just how fast and efficient they are, especially the guys that are in the studio all the time.
That play with each other all the time too. And then they'll, some cool little suggestion. Let's put a diamond here, or let's put,
Yeah.
And I would never have thought of that. Nice job,
That's
guys.
why I like tracking with the entire band. I don't like piecemealing things out. It's always better when you have everybody in the room, because somebody's going to come up with something magical.
It's way more fun.
It really is way more fun because everybody has a little bit different perspective. And if you just put a drum track down and you just send it out to everybody and let them do stuff at their house, you're going to miss some things that would have been amazing on that record.
Yeah, capturing the moments. I think that was a bit of the difference with the 2-inch tape situation. You were really trying to capture moments.
How do you feel about a lot of the current music that's out there these days? What do you listen to?
I'm a little weird because I just kind of listen to the same 20 albums all over and over again. I mean, I'm kind of weird like that. I don't really listen. Like my son was trying to get me to listen to Drake one day, and I was like, I hate this as much as my dad hated Van Halen. Because I used to try to get my dad to listen to Van Halen. And I think surely he understands how amazing Eddie Van Halen is. And my dad would just grimace through the whole thing. And then I realized it's not for him. And so my son's music, it's not for me. It's not for me to care one way or the other about it. He loves it. That's all that matters. And it speaks to him. And so it's not for me, and I get it, and I think that's how it's supposed to work. Like they have their thing, I have my thing, but we did have this one moment. He loved this one artist named Juice WRLD, who unfortunately passed away. But Juice WRLD he sang, and he sang over sort of rap beats and stuff. It was more musical than just straight up rap, right? And he sang this one note, this big soaring kind of plaintive note. And I went, oh, I know what this is. I said, hey, buddy. I said, I know why you like this music. And he goes, why? I said, well, listen to this. And I put on this album by the band called The Samples. And the singer's name is Sean Kelly. And he sings almost the identical note. This soaring kind of plaintive note that's the wolf's howl, that tells 18-year-olds that there's a big world out there waiting for them. And it stirs something And I said to him, I said, that's that note. That's that note that made me go out there and try to find it. And when I played it for him, he went, what is happening? Like, it freaked him out. And I was like, this is what it is, buddy. This is what music is. This is why it moves you, why that note moved me. And Sean Kelly was given that note to make guys like me go out here in the dark in the woods and try to find it.
Strange question for you. When you were young, before you knew what a relationship was, before girlfriends, before physical intimacy, all that stuff, could you listen to a heartbreaking love song and would it stir emotions in you that you didn't understand?
So that Earth, Wind, and Fire song, Reasons.
Yeah.
7-year-old me didn't know why Philip Bailey was sad, but man,
Make you cry,
I was right
man.
there with him, you know.
Isn't that amazing?
100%, you know. But I also that music taught you, again, there's a big world out here waiting for you when you're ready for it. And I know for me, you know, my first mind-blowing experience was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I just remember being 7 years old going, okay, how can I be part of this? I just want to be part of a band that makes this happen.
You know, everybody doesn't do that.
Right.
It really, everybody doesn't get that thing inside that just knots up your stomach like that when you're just a little child.
And it makes you think like, well, why wouldn't you want to be a part of this?
Yeah.
This is the most incredible thing I've ever heard in my whole life. You know, this is people getting together in a room and making this happen. Yeah.
You know, and one of the other things I love about music in a politically divided and turbulent world out there, music is still, it's common ground for us, man. It's still a soothing thing for so many people, man. It's a leveling place for people to meet and congregate no matter what your political ideology is, your view of the world. Music it should be a safe place. It's a powerful tool.
I'm real proud of our audience because I see everyone's represented.
Yeah.
You know, and that's always been the goal for us. And you know, my records, admittedly, my records are weird too because stylistically they jump all over the place because there's jazz, there's country, there's straight up rock.
Some have even got a Christian feel to it.
I mean, yeah. And I did a gospel song for a it was like a mini series back in the 90s. And they asked a bunch of artists to do songs for this, but nobody would commit. Like everybody did, all the secular artists did, you know, Spirit in the Sky, or nobody ever said anything. And I just went straight down the wormhole and did Jesus Loves Me. Like I just made the children's song into a big gospel choir song and just put some stank on it. And it was kind of fun, but it was also watching everybody try to middle the road in the industry because there was a big division. It seemed like, you know, everybody keep it real separate. And I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Not so much in country. There's a lot of it that filters in, but that whole LA scene, yeah.
No,
so.
With pop music, that was anathema. They couldn't do that. But
brother, what's all your socials information? Where can everybody find you?
I'm on TikTok. I'm the Edwin McCain.
And you post 10 times a day, don't you?
No, I don't post. I didn't start goofing around with. So all the way up to the pandemic, I was like, never. You know, I refused to engage social media. I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then the pandemic hit and we were goofing around in the house and I started making silly videos with my kids. And I really fell in love with TikTok because there was so many different perspectives of people that I would never have known in my whole life. Right.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people, you know, chirping at each other too. But I think one of the first creators that I saw that was really compelling was this guy named Cody Green. And he suffers from schizophrenia and he talks about it really openly and honestly. And he's funny about it. And he talks about what his life is like living with social media. Like one of his things was every once in a while, if I'm in the house and I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'll pull out my phone and point the camera at them just to make sure that they're real. And because that's how he knows if he's having a hallucination or not. I was like, that's genius. Like, you know, I mean, but think about like going through life not really being sure if the person that you're talking to is real. But he's so good natured about it, and he's real open and honest. And I feel like that was one of the things that drew me to social media, because in my experience with the music industry before, they wanted you to build a mystery. They wanted you to build this thing, this facade of something they thought that people would like. They don't want to hear about alcoholism or whatever your struggles are, or your, you know, transparency was not really the game back then. And now it seems like authenticity is the litmus test. Like
I saw some video clip of Steven Tyler grilling hamburgers the other day.
Yeah, that I feel like maybe so. There's a certain class of rock stars that I don't think they can come back from the mountain. Like, I don't want to hear about David Lee Roth's cat's UTI. You know what I mean? Like, I just want him to be the rock god that he was in 1984, and we're just going to leave it at that, yeah. Right? Like, you know, that. Like, I don't know if Sting taking his Labradoodle to the vet.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there is a pinnacle that artists can reach, that where you just cease to be normal and nobody wants to see you doing normal things.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to make
social media's broken a lot of that stuff down, though.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, I wasn't a fan of social media, and then the pandemic changed my mind, and now, and plus, also for me, I was really just surprised at how many people. That was the other thing. I thought, because I was out there doing my thing and playing my little shows, I was like, well, you know, everybody knows I'm out here, but to the general public, I was MIA. To the general public, I was in the witness protection program. And like, all of a sudden, all these people were like, where you been? I was like, I've been here the whole time, but I haven't had a publicist. I haven't been visible, but I've been out here playing shows. But I realized through social media, I was like, oh, okay. If you're not available on social media, then you're essentially in the dark. Like, yeah. Nobody knows where you are. Because it used to be, for people to know what you were doing, you had to be on Leno and Letterman, and you had to do the big shows, and you know, People Magazine, you had to do all the magazines, and now you have to be on social media.
As I'm telling you what, and being an artist that's past the radio portion of my career, social media gives us so many more tools now to reach that audience out there that we never had before. We don't have to go through the gatekeepers to reach that audience anymore. So there's still a market out there that wants to buy those new records now that we didn't used to have.
Think about how many times you went on some local morning television show hoping that a couple of thousand people in the town
just looking for any kind of spike,
we're gonna see you, and meanwhile you can put a post up and reach 20,000
and back
people.
then praying that your record label had enough product in the Walmart that you could at least sell some records. Nowadays you don't have to do all that stuff, man. All I got is a push a button.
It's funny being around like the younger bands, and like, you have no idea. We had to do payphone interviews at the truck stops and carry.
We didn't have satellites on the bus.
Oh God, we froze to death in Minneapolis in January playing radio station gigs. Yeah, no, part of me. I know that we got to experience the last of the big time music business when it was at its zenith, when they were selling 20 million CDs. You know, the amount of money that was in our record industry is 80% bigger than it is now. I mean, the market share is so much smaller now. And
Well, you don't have the revenue from the album sales. The cost to promote a single on radio is tremendous from what it used to be. You know, streaming doesn't pay near what record sales do. As a songwriter, if you're have a publishing deal and you're a songwriter here in Nashville, you're, in the 90s, if you were getting 7 or 8 B-sides a year and maybe one single, you were making a great living, several $100,000 a year. Nowadays, if you're not on the bus riding and you're not writing a single with that artist and you're not getting records on the radio, you ain't making no money. It's tough.
I know that's it's changed completely. I mean, I always sort of felt like I could adapt to whatever happened, and all the way including getting my job back in Hilton Head, playing at one of the little bars one day. You know, if that's the way it ended up, then fine. You know, our business has, it's like every 9 to 10 years there's some big technology shift that just upends our industry. And it started with sheet music, and then it went to vinyl, and then it went to tapes, then it went to CDs, and then DATs, and every so often they just flip the format, and now we're back to vinyl again.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming?
And it's gotten traction. I love vinyl.
It's great.
There's just such a great sound to it.
For years I was like, really? Because, you know, the convenience of not having vinyl, you know, I got really used to being able to just click on. But then I put on a Mel Torme record. My dad had a Mel Torme record. It was a duet record that he did with Buddy Rich. They did a 1-take session together, and it's spectacular. Wow. I put it on. I put the needle on. I was like, yeah, that sounds better. That just sounds better. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. For all the technology, sonically, we've lost some things because of the digital world that we record in now. For all the efficiency and everything that it brings, it just don't sound the same to me. But we're living in a world where everybody's listening in here and not listening with full spectrum sound. So we got a generation growing up that don't understand what it really could sound
just
like.
Listening with the earbuds and the whole thing, or the little, you know, the little Bluetooth speaker. And I sit there and go, you have any idea how much time we spent on that damn tambourine track? We spent an hour A-Bing 10 different tambourines, and yeah, there it is.
And now you just pull it up in Pro Tools, it's in the box. You go, that's the one. No, I don't like that one. Like that one. Okay, let's use that one.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, oh gosh.
I've been in sessions where we go outside and take a drumstick and tap on every hubcap in the parking lot looking for a sound. You know, tap on trees and anything you can find. What's this sound like? It's crazy, man. Now it's all changed. Brother, I've really enjoyed visiting with you. I know you got a show locally here close to the area tonight. Hope we get a chance to visit again, man. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Man, I now count you as a friend. You're stuck with me.
Much continued success, man. Enjoy the excavator. Enjoy your time with your family, man. Enjoy kind of getting back into this music business and all that stuff. Edwin McCain, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you so much. Man.